Hello and welcome to the Hertfordshire and Essex High School Sixth Form Induction and Taster Lesson for Latin. During this induction and taster lesson, we hope to give you an overview of what you will be doing when studying A-level Latin at Herts and Essex, seeing some testimonials from students and also having a taste of some love poetry by the author Catullus. First, I would like to introduce you to the Classics department at Herts and Essex. So my name is Miss Callahan and I am the subject leader. Okay, so let's think about why you might want to study A-level Latin at Herts and Essex. Here is a quote from the very wise Marcus Tullius Cicero, who you will get to know very well during your time studying Latin A-level. But rather than listen to me give you advice and ideas on why you might want to study A-level Latin, let's hear from some of our current and ex-Herts and Essex students.
So I'm Becca and I studied A-level Latin as one of my 4 options, along with maths, further maths and chemistry. I've gone on to study maths at Durham Uni, and I chose to study A-level Latin because it was a bit different from my other subjects. I wanted something that would give me a little break from all the numbers, and I enjoyed Latin immensely at GCSE. And I found the subject fascinating. I mean, it's a subject that has literature, history and language all rolled into one. So I thought I would give the A-level go, and it was incredibly interesting. And
I decided to study Latin for A-level because it was one of the subjects I enjoyed doing most at GCSE.
Done Latin at GCSE and I really enjoyed it. It was really interesting and I love the language. Also, you don't have to speak it, which is actually such a plus. You just get to
So I decided to study A-level Latin because I really enjoyed it at GCSE, and I like the fact that although you're studying a language, you get to learn lots about the Roman culture too as a whole. And
to study at Herts and Essex because I felt like with all the other colleges and sixth forms nearby that offered the subjects, their class sizes are a lot bigger to the ones that we'd get here. And I feel like with the smaller classes, it's better because there's less of you, so there's more focus on you, and so you can get more involved.
Continue studying at Herts and Essex because it was the closest school to where I live that offered the subjects I wanted to do at A-level. And I liked the fact that it was quite easy to be able to do 4 subjects.
I chose to stay at Herts and Essex because it is the only school in the area that offers Latin, and I knew I wanted to take it. And also because I'd been there from 7 to 11, so I knew that all the departments for the subjects that I wanted to take were exceptionally good, and I knew the teachers really well and knew that I'd work well with them and get the best grades that I could.
I decided to study at Herts and Essex because our department is fantastic. All our teachers are so passionate about the course and the different parts of classics that we offer. So whether you're really fascinated about the Aeneid and you want to do that, there's one of our teachers loves it. Whether you want to do a bit of Greek language on the side, they can accommodate that. I've done plenty of little Greek language sessions myself and they're really fun and enjoyable. And again, with that sort of thing, you don't need any experience, it's just a bit of fun. In Latin, my favourite part of the course is the variety of authors that we get to study. There's so many different authors. I mean, Virgil, Cicero, Ovid, Tacitus, Livy, so many different authors, it's great. And you might even sneak a bit Caesar in the side, which is really fascinating. But it's really interesting to see the different styles that people write in and the different ways that they write in those styles. So
Probably one of my favourite parts about the A-level course for Latin is that in ancient history we'd studied the original sources in their translation, and when it came to doing Latin A-level we actually were then looking at those original sources in their Latin text, which I thought was quite cool. And
My favourite part of the A-level was the small class sizes and the teaching. The small class sizes, it's like having a tutor. It's really something to be grateful for. It's not intimidating in any sense, like having a big class, if you were to put your hand up, and the department at Herts and Essex is really, really good. So it is really something that they work. It has helped. It built up a lot of resilience for me, because I'm much better at maths. I'm not naturally good at Latin, and so I had to work really quite hard to get a grade that I was really proud of. So it built up resilience, and also it is an essay subject, whereas my other 3 subjects were all not. So if I hadn't taken it, I wouldn't have written an essay since maybe GCSE, and I think it really diversifies my skill set, because it's something shows that I can write, and it's something different, and it separates you from other people, because Latin really is something different. And
I plan on doing classics at university, so obviously I'd use my A-levels for that, and I think that by studying Latin at A-level, it's really helped me develop just my English in general, because obviously a lot of English words are derived from the Latin words, and so that helps build your vocabulary. And as well, with the literature that we study, like you're studying the works of like some of the greatest like historians or orators that there were, so it just helps it helps develop your actual writing, because obviously you're studying their techniques, which were proved to be effective.
Leaving Herts and Essex, it's helped immensely due to the fact that I now am doing a classics degree, and the fact that I already had this language foundation helped a lot, in that I didn't have to take an extra year, and I just sort of had the basic grammatical tools needed to learn ancient Greek as well.
It has helped. It built up a lot of resilience for me, because I'm much better at maths. I'm not naturally good at Latin, and so I had to work really quite hard to get a grade that I was really proud of. So it built up resilience, and also it is an essay subject, whereas my other 3 subjects were all not. So if I hadn't taken it, I wouldn't have written an essay since maybe GCSE, and I think it really diversifies my skill set, because it's something shows that I can write, and it's something different, and it separates you from other people, because Latin really is something different. And
a piece of advice I would give to someone wanting to study that is probably to embrace the challenge of studying quite a difficult language, but the rewards are worth it, and make sure to learn your vocab.
I'd say that for someone wanting to study Latin A-level, you've got to really enjoy the subject, because it is hard, it's challenging, and so if you don't have that enjoyment there, then you're going to struggle, but it is all like really worth it in the end.
Latin, my advice is vocab. Just do vocab. Honestly, I can't stress that enough. Vocab is so important, because it gives you something to work from, because you might see a word and know what tense it is, or what tense it is, say, what person it is. You might know everything about the verb, just not what it means, and then you can't really do anything with it. So you have to know your vocab. It's so important. It's like when people say, don't run before you can walk. Vocab is the walking, and the running comes in time, and the vocab is so important. Just do it as much as you possibly can.
It's not intimidating in any sense, like having a big class, if you were to put your hand up, and the department at Herts and Essex is really, really good. So it is really something that they work well at. It has helped. It built up a lot of resilience for me, because I am much better at maths. I am not naturally good at Latin, and so I had to work really quite hard to get a grade that I was really proud of. So it built up resilience, and also it is an essay subject, whereas my other 3 subjects were all not. So if I hadn't taken it, I wouldn't have written an essay since maybe GCSE, and I think it really diversifies my skill set, because it's something shows that I can write, and it's something different, and it separates you from other people, because Latin really is something different and a really interesting subject. Do I have any advice? My advice would be to work hard at it throughout the year. It does require quite a bit of work, but it is definitely worth it, especially to come out with something that you are proud of. So I would highly recommend taking Latin to anyone that is thinking about it, because it is a subject that is definitely worth it.
Okay, so here I have a roundup for you of some of the reasons why students in the past have chosen to study A-level Latin. So firstly, they found that it was a subject that they really enjoyed at GCSE. Now that might be that they love deciphering the Latin language, or that they really enjoy getting to grips with the set text and the literature side of the course. Either way, it's a subject that they thoroughly enjoyed and therefore wanted to continue with at A-level. You also have very small class sizes at A-level, and this leads to a really supportive learning environment where students become very confident in voicing their own opinions and speaking out publicly. They also like the idea that they get to explore lots of different classical texts, both through the literature side, but also getting to translate Latin in its original form. So whether it be Livy or Cicero or Ovid, there's lots of original Latin texts to get to grips with at A-level. And it's not just the language element of the course either. As I say, there's literature, there's history. You're learning lots about the Romans and how they lived their lives. Okay, so let's think about the skills that you will gain and develop from studying A-level Latin. So there are a wide variety of skills that you will develop, from team working, boosting your resilience, boosting your confidence, helping you to become a much more confident learner. It will also give you the confidence in voicing your own opinions, whether that be in a debating scenario where you are presenting your own ideas, or whether that is the challenging ideas of others and looking at evidence and how to use that to support your own arguments. It will also give you a much deeper understanding of both the Latin language but also of the English language, and you will find that it will help to broaden your vocabulary. Finally, we have had science-based students and mathematicians who have said that the essay writing element of the A-level course has really helped them to diversify their skill sets, and that has been something that has helped them when they've moved on to university level. Okay, so now I'm going to hand you over to Mrs. Clark, who is going to take you through the course overview.
Hello, my name is Mr. Barrett. I'm going to take you through a little bit of Catullus now. So Catullus is one of our authors that we'll be studying in detail as a set text at A-level. Catullus is just an absolutely fantastic poet to study. There's almost nobody in history writes with the kind of sheer sort of emotion and passion that Catullus does. Loads of his poems are written as love poems, quite often to this particular girl, and it's called Lesbia in the poetry, and there's a whole sort of background question about the possibility of there's Lesbia being a historical figure, Clodia, which we can explore. So lots of love poetry, but he also writes fantastic sort of poems to his friends where he's sort of mocking them. There's a great one where he takes the mick out of a friend who puts an H on the front of every single word. And some of his poetry is just incredibly rude, and people weren't translating it even up to the 21st century. So he's just an absolutely fantastic poet to be studying. This is a really short poem by him that we've got up here for the taste lesson, just 4 lines long. So Curtis spoke about over 150 poems in total. This is poem number 70, so they will have little numbers to them. We study range ones that are as short as 2 lines long, up to more like 20, 30 lines. So this is one of the shorter ones. It's from one of his love poems, as we'll be seeing. He talks about Mulia Mea, my woman. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to be working out what the poem means, so translating it, but then also thinking, well, okay, what's he getting at? And then we'll have a little bit of think about what this tells us about Catullus' love life itself as well. So I'll just start off by reading it to you, because it sounds quite nice to hear the poetry out loud, and then I'll show you what you need to be doing to translate it. Okay, so it should sound something like this. Nulli se dicit mulier mea nubere male, quam mihi non si se Jupiter ipse petat. Dicit, sed mulier cupido quod dicit amanti, invent et rapida scribere portet aqua. Okay, that's what the poem should sound like. What I'd like you to do first task is to have a go at translating the poem. 4 lines long. I've provided you with some numbering, which you might have been using in GCSEs to support you. So start off with Mea, number 1, then Mulia, number 2, Dicit, number 3, and so on. And there's also some vocabulary provided there on the right to help you. So pause the video now, have a go at coming up with your translation of this, and then when you're done, I'll have a little my own translation on the next slide where you can compare to yours, and we'll see how you've done. Well, this is what it translates as. What's Catullus getting at? What is he trying to say about what his woman thinks, what his girlfriend thinks, what does he think about her, and so forth. So we've got a couple of questions here just for you to have a think about as your second task. So if you write words on winds or on water, what's going to happen to those words? What value do those words then have? Do you think that Catullus trusts Mulia, trusts his woman? The final sentence is fairly generalizing about the words of all women to their lovers being worthless. What do you think might have happened to Catullus that this is what something he thinks, something that he says? Dicit, going back to that first line, nice present tense, my woman says these things. Does that tell you about the current status of Catullus' relationship with her? And taking into consideration that, how is that the status of that relationship compatible with the kind of sentiment that he's expressing in the final 2 lines? So just have a think of those few questions. Don't want to write something down about them all. So I'll give you some time to think about that. Pause, have a think, and then you can hear what I've got to say when you restart. So in the first 2 lines here, Catullus is really trying to show his affection for his lover and how his lover loves him. His woman loves him so much that she'd rather love him than love Jupiter. And you can see this with the sort of emphatic position of nulli at the front of that first line. No one else should rather marry apart from me. You get mulia, mea, male, mihi. You get this alliteration running throughout that first clause. And I mean, especially the mulia mea, that's nice little sort of alliterative, affectionate phrasing you can imagine Roman lovers using for one another. And with the rest of the alliterations going on there, really kind of drawing out the affection between the two of them. When you get to this sort of, not if Jupiter himself was asking her, obviously this is total hyperbole, the idea that the king of the gods would ask her, that's kind of showing how Catullus imagines her. He imagines her as someone who the king of the gods himself would find desirable. With the per running through that, Jupiter ipse petat. You get that nice little alliteration. Petat meaning sort of mean beg or ask for, and the Pison will almost bring out that sense of begging that Jupiter might be doing, which in itself is quite an image. The idea of the king of the gods begging her to marry him. Again, it suggests that she's even above the king of the gods in terms of power at that point, with him begging her. The second set of two lines from the D kit, flip it around. So very much now focusing on the distrust that she says these things, but things are fairly worthless. So the D kit, short, single word sentence, very brutal. It sort of takes the first D kit and switches it around. How she says these things? She says these things. Can you really trust it? Can you really? Does she really mean it? What a woman says to her desirous lover, one should write in the winds and the fast-flowing water. You get the hyperbaton of Cupido Amante to emphasize how eager, how desirous the lover is. So it's talking about him. It's talking about him as this sort of passionate lover, which definitely comes across in his poetry. And the rapida aqua, you've got the hyperbaton there, you've got the A sound repeated at the end of both words, which gives it a little sort of internal rhyme within the line. Invent et rapida, scribere portet aqua. And if you listen to the sounds, the dum da da dum da da running through that line, the lots of dactyls, as we call them in the meter, it gives the line a bit of pace, and that's sort of picking up the idea of the fast-flowing water sweeping away her words, which then therefore become fairly meaningless.
Thank you for that, Mr. Barrett. So I'm hoping that by now you have decided that Latin is an absolute must for you starting in September. And so I've put together for you a list of some useful resources that you might want to start having a look at over the summer. So there are some websites that you might wish to explore. You've got your list of texts that you will be studying next year. So the Procloentio for Cicero, Virgil's Aeneid, and some of the Catullus poems. There are also some useful textbooks that you might want to have a look at in preparation for your language work. So translations that are really going to push you beyond GCSE standard and prepare you for A-level. And then there's some fictional books that you might want to have a look at as well. Quite a few of them are based in the 1st century BC, so the time period when most of your set texts are based, but there are also a few from a lot further in our history. So looking at the Song of Achilles and the Silence of the Girls, both books are based on the Trojan War, and that is something that you will be looking at come year 13. So I hope that you have enjoyed today's taster lesson and found it informative. If you do have any questions, then feel free to email me on my school email address. But I'm just going to leave you with one final Latin quote of the day. Thank you very much.